Charlotte Soccer Show. John Hayes. He's Danny Brams. And it is a special Tuesday evening edition of the show. Live, me from Philadelphia, the site of the match tomorrow night. And we're here to celebrate a win in Los Angeles. We were California dreaming on Saturday night, and now it's time for some Philadelphia freedom on Wednesday evening in the city of brotherly love. And Danny, I've got nothing but brotherly love for you, my friend.
Yes, sir, my brother. Great to see you. Great to be back with you live. Welcome to all of y'all TIFOs who've joined up. Thank you for coming in on a Tuesday night, not our normal night, but just the way that the schedules worked out. So we decided to do it tonight because of travel and midweek. And it's been a wild month, John. We at some point, we just maybe in like a week and a half, we might just need to sit back and take stock and just be like, wow, the last month was crazy because it's just been match after match, after show after show. After trip after trip, we've both been traveling all over the damn map. So feels really good to be with you always, though, tonight. And thanks to anyone who jumps in the stream. Get some comments going. We respond to them. That's kind of how these work. And we also try to make it last, though, make it a listenable episode. If you're listening to this later on your podcast app and not on live stream, we love you too. So thanks for being here. That's always a good format to digest the show. And John, I've got some breaking news, though. I've got a bit of breaking news.
Okay, hit me.
I went back to Total Wine, baby. I'm back on the Malbec. You know it.
Love to see it. And he's straight from the bottle. That's a great
Straight
move,
from the
Danny.
bottle, necking it. This is an eccentric Malbec. Can you read that? Bourbon barrel aged for 10 months. This is wine that has been hanging out with bourbon for a while. And it felt right for a Southern type of show we got going here. And it's got me feeling good, bro.
I mean, it seems like they're a match made in heaven. Should be good friends, the bourbon and the wine. Shout out to Jorge Torres, who is also a great friend of the show, Tifos. Good to see you tonight as well. I've got the St. Pauli Girl, a non-alcoholic beer this evening for St. Pauli Girl. So
I feel like the St. Pauli Girl NA should be wearing a turtleneck. You know that. What can I say? You know,
is it off brand for me to be drinking an NA on the show?
It's an all ages show. You know, good for you. You know, we have done, like, we love to drink and promote drinking on this show, but we definitely don't want to promote excessive drinking. We don't want to promote alcoholism, and so I think it's good to take a little break and just sip a non-alcoholic every once in a while.
Brian Shuford, who's in the chat. Great to hear from him. He says, longest stretch of time I haven't been embarrassed to be a CLTFC fan, and I would love to keep it going.
I want to know when did this stretch start? When did you stop being embarrassed, Brian? Like was it the Atlanta match? Was it the Orlando match? The Columbus match? I want to know how long this stretch has been going for sure.
Luke Beadle says, what's up? What's up, Luke? Thanks for hopping in. Level up. What's good? And we've got a slammed packed show for you this evening. We're going to talk about the 1-0 win against LA Galaxy. I want to talk about Kerwin Vargas. My main takeaway from that match on Saturday against Galaxy was that Kerwin Vargas is the future of this club. Adilson Malanda, Danny Brams, he's all of a sudden become a lightning rod topic in the QC.
Who would have thought? Yeah, who would have thought?
And I want to talk about Karol Swiderski's goal at the stroke of midnight. And Danny, you were somebody that had a premonition on last.
We got to go to the video evidence. We got to go to the video
Friday
evidence.
Show.
Let me key it up. And everybody, this was when I was talking in our last episode about the fact that I was worried that we were not going to have that many people show up at EPR because it was so late. And here's how it went. Let me quote my man JJ Kale when I say, after midnight, we gonna let it all hang out. Gonna let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. We're gonna make them scream and shout, boy. Let's go. I think it's gonna be a good party. Imagine a midnight winner, from Karol Swiderski. If the reward for showing up, I hope everybody that's there has a great time because I know I'm going to.
You called it.
Nostradamus. Let's go, baby. I love it. I went to the tape. I checked the videotape. Karol's goal was scored. If you're in the industry, you know this term, time code. I checked the time code on Karol's goal. 00:11:14. That's 11 minutes and 14 seconds past midnight. After midnight, Karol let it all hang out. It was amazing. We had Mike we had a pretty good turnout at DPR for a late night. We had all the core people and a few newbies, thanks to Pete for showing up with his buddy, and a shout out to his daughters, Charlotte and Annabelle, big fans of the show. I said, Pete said, "Hey, my daughters love the show. They're kind of younger." And I was like, "Well, I hope they know it's PG-13. I hope you're cool with that." And he's like, "Oh yeah, they're too young to even register the swear words, so that's good." But yeah, great turnout, and it was right after midnight, and we just had a great time. Mike called out the goal, Carol Swiderski, and everyone was yelling it. Brando, our boy Brando, was going nuts. Just a really great time. We have so much fun at EPR. Carol made it a party. But I got to tell you, we won that match. There was a lot of good things coming out of that match, but it was a little scary. I mean, for us being up a man, we're up a man, up a goal, and it's like dicey, nervy, squeaky bum time for like the last 20 minutes of that match.
Yeah, and I think that was another takeaway that I had from the match as well, that it was 2 games in a row that were the total opposite. And in both of those game situations, the team really didn't handle it well. Right. So there's 2 sides of the coin here. One is that the win happened, and that we were really, really fortunate to get a late winner and another assist from Justin Meram on the night. It was great to see him back having an impact. Christian Kalina have an impact as well. But as far as game situation, up a man at the end of the match, you have to be able to control the ball and keep the ball away from LA Galaxy in that situation. And down a man at Birmingham, you have to find a way to push forward like Galaxy did and go for broke and try to equalize in that situation as well. So we have some things to talk about there, Danny, and just shout out to you for calling that game. I feel like you knew Nostradamus. What a great nickname. I think that might be the best nickname we've come up with on the show so far. I want to take a quick look at the table this evening as well. But before we do any of that, let's just bask in the glory of this.
With what his skill sets are and how he rounds out as more a complete player.
Corner number 6 for Charlotte FC. Justin Meram driving it to the near post all the way through, and it's 1-0. Swiderski finally pays one off. Goal number 4, and a 1-0 lead for the visitors.
And Meram continues to have that impact on his new team, just whipping a ball and beating everyone at the front post. That ball bounces in the box, and Swiderski, who's had a number of chances tonight, isn't going to miss from there. Just holds off Raheem Edwards. Is able to just redirect it with the outside of his left foot.
Hey, it's nothing special, but it's just
one of those... Raheem Edwards. Sorry, bro.
Actually rated R, this movie.
Sorry.
And yeah, it's not pretty. It's not the most beautiful goal that you'll see, but it's one of those away goals that really has a massive impact. Hey, it was, you heard it on the call. It was Charlotte FC's 6th corner of the night, and on that 6th try, they get the job done. You love to absolutely see that. One other topic tonight that I wanted to hit on that you mentioned, and you reminded me of this, is that we are 1 year removed from Christian Latanzio being given the interim tag as Charlotte FC's manager. So I think we're going to reflect on the first year of Christian Latanzio's tenure, and it's a good time to do it, considering he's got this team playing really well right now. So Danny, we laid out a bunch of topics. I'm going to give you the option to decide where we go first.
You said you wanted to check the table. Let's check the table. I mean, you were not necessarily a table watching show. We've spoken in the past sometimes about how it's a little too early to watch the table, but I do.
Well, we're 15 games in.
Yeah, we're at a point where I want your thoughts. Yeah, for sure.
And it looks absolutely gorgeous. And forget about the games played. Forget about the wins, the draws, the losses. I'm just looking at the last 5. Mm-hmm. And when you look at that Eastern Conference table and you look at the last 5 games played, there's only 3 teams right now in the East who are on a better run of form than Charlotte FC right now. And that is, of course, Philadelphia, Nashville, and Cincinnati.
Hey, immovable object, unstoppable force in Chester tomorrow night, I guess, if both Charlotte and Philly are on such great form. The thing, I don't want to get too confident or overconfident, but I'm really not that worried about Atlanta. I think they're headed for a huge swoon once they lose Thiago Almada this summer. He's like 99% of the way already to some European league or European team that we don't know yet. So he's not going to be here for the second half of the season. So I know they're going to be vulnerable. The teams above us, man, Cincy and Nashville, these are, Nashville a little bit stronger, but Cincy's a team that they have a history of multiple wooden spoons, and all of a sudden they've found themselves in first place. The Cincy turnaround, if you're not a huge MLS fan, if you just started falling for Charlotte, maybe you might be interested to know that the Cincy turnaround started when they hired the assistant GM from Philadelphia Union to come be their sporting director. And he sort of implemented the Philly Union blueprint on FC Cincinnati and just completely turned their whole franchise around in a year and a half to where they can sit here in first place after being one of the worst clubs in league history for a while. So that just tells you about our next opponent, the Union, that we have to face. Is like, this is a quality program. This is a quality side. We were able to beat them 4-0 at home in just a raucous, amazing, sublime display of soccer perfection last year at home, but we lost badly to them in Philadelphia last year. So it's kind of one of those things where, how's it going to be? I don't know, but we need to show up. It's time for us to show up. We are on fire. Nick Haser comments. We love that, Nick. And yeah, Charlotte's on fire. Philadelphia Union's terrified. What do you think, John?
I think it's going to be a really tough match. And we saw the injury report come out today. Enzo Capetti is unavailable. You talked about how some of the match was not the best football in the world on Saturday night against LA. And it was a reflection on both teams for sure. And I think if Charlotte plays the way they did on Saturday against Philadelphia on Wednesday on a short turnaround, I think it's going to be really tough to win that game. I'm heading into this match thinking that a draw would be a nice result. I know some people aren't going to be happy to hear that, but when you have a run of form like this going and you're already in sixth place on the table, and a point at this point isn't the worst thing in the world, have to go to Columbus on Saturday as well. So the next two matches are difficult ones, Danny. But in case people are listening to this later in the week, I did want to have some more thoughts on the Galaxy match, if that's cool.
Of course.
Back into the Philly stuff.
In terms of, I think you were really hot on Vargas, right? So you thought he was man of the match. You thought maybe he was subbed a little too early. What do you think of Kerwin Vargas right now?
Well, the reason why, and Finn's made an appearance on the show, and now it sounds like Crackers is making an audio
Crackers
appearance on the
is
show.
A non-pictured character on the show. He might find his way to my lap here before we're done. I don't know if he's a wine drinker though.
I wanted to, just kind of underscore what I tweeted from the show account on Saturday during the match, which was, Kerwin Vargas is the future. Protect this player. He's 21 years old, and I think people forget that. And the strides that we've seen him make, and the type of class that he has on the ball is pretty much second to none on this squad. And I think everything that you've always wanted Mackenzie Gaines to be, Kerwin Vargas already is.
Yeah.
And that happens, Danny. And making an appearance.
Crackers the categories with you.
Yep,
he's a huge Vargas fan. This guy loves himself some Kerwin Vargas. I think he's a street cat. I think he used to hang out with a bunch of Colombian kiddies when he was in his pre-shelter, pre-adoption life. So we love you, Crack.
A kiss for the cat and a
Protect
kiss for
Vargas. Protect this young man too, for sure.
So I just wanted to make sure that we got into that conversation.
How about your boy Jorge saying Colombia? Call Vargas up to the national side. He deserves a shot. I mean, he's a youngster. I think it's not out of the question at all.
Considering how bad the Colombia World Cup qualifying went last year, and how this team is kind of in rebuild mode. And while I think that might be something for a couple years down the line, if Vargas can hold down that left wing spot, get some more goals, rack up the assist, it'll be impossible for Columbia to look away from this kid. And Lenny C chiming in as well. Vargas is our best technically and has the most talent potential, head and shoulders above. See, that's why Lenny C and we see eye to eye.
Yeah,
on a lot of these players sometimes. That's a great point.
Might need Lenny to bring the fam back to EPR for another good luck charm for sure. Nothing better than when they showed up. But so the thing I want to ask you about Vargas is because we're in a spot where we have Miram, who's been crushing since he showed up. He has a goal or an assist in every single game that he started for us. Well, and I believe that's our last 6 games. You showed up. We showed on the table how we had won 4 of 5. We've actually won 5 of 6 even. So I mean, we're in really good form. But the thing was, he came right at Vargas got hurt right when we signed Miram. So my question is, now that Vargas is back healthy, who's the real star? So let's say we have Gaines, Jusviak, Vargas, and Miram. Who's your preferred pairing on which wings?
Well, in a fantasy world where all 4 are healthy and ready to go and ready to start, I think you have to find a way to get Miram and Vargas on the pitch at the same time.
Wow. Those two and Josviak's the third choice? Gaines, I think, is obviously 4th choice in that list for both of us, right?
Right. And I think that you can find a way, especially right now with this current run of fixtures. But I mean, if we're trotting out there for a final this Saturday and you've got to go with your best 11, if Kerwin Vargas doesn't start, I think it's a huge mistake.
I think I agree. I'm really happy with what Miram's been doing. Kind of turned it into a bit with my boy Brett. That we're, the JM22 club, like I fully admit in like the sober light of day that I was like bashing Miram a couple of times pretty harshly when he first signed. But then like once he started producing results, I quickly like flipped and I was like all about Justin Miram and I love him. So like I'm JM22 all day for sure. But I do think everybody healthy. I would like to have I would rather have Kerwin and Josviak, to be honest, which is, I can't believe I'm saying that, and have Miram be your impact sub, because as great as he's been, I do think, the assist to Carroll a little bit lucky, just kind of a standard corner kick that bounces past.
I wouldn't call it lucky, but I hear what you're trying to say, right? The lucky wouldn't be it's a fundamental play. It's a nice corner kick.
Right.
That just
everything is going Miram's way right now. And he's making things happen. I'm definitely not bashing him. I'm just saying that like, at full health, give me Vargas and Jusviak and have Miram be the sub, and then have Gaines be the real sub if we really need some attack.
Options are exactly what Christian Latanzio wants, and it's what he's got.
Or don't even worry about game state necessarily, but just find a way to be rotating these guys in so that like 2 of them are getting 60 minutes every once in a while, and the other 2 get 30, and then you flip it. I'm fine with that. Like, I like having a set 11 in principle, obviously, but like I do think all 4 of these guys can make an impact.
It's great, and when all these fixtures are coming fast and furious, you have to have depth like this. And I think what Justin Miram brings is attitude and energy, right? As well as a veteran presence that exudes a bit of class. All of a sudden, you're talking about a Charlotte FC club right now with the gemstone in the middle of the pitch who is just oozing class. You just see this guy and you say, wow, how lucky are we to be experiencing Ashley Westwood's swan song in his career. He's playing in MLS because he's no longer won it at Burnley. Burnley's went for championship promotion. They won the championship, and now they're headed to the Premier League. Ashley Westwood, at this point in his career, there's just no room for him on that squad. Right. But there's plenty of room here at Charlotte FC to make some good money, to do that, to have the American experience, and to be a leader. And to see him wearing the captain's armband, we have in the past on this show so many times talked about, hey, who's the captain? And at this point, you're going to have to rip that badge off of Ashley Westwood for the rest of the season, because it's just so great to have him in the center of the pitch.
It almost feels like that has been his more of a priority for him coming into this situation. When I'm on the outside looking in, I see it almost looks like he has prioritized taking over the leadership role more than even his on-field play. Not that he's slacking in the on-field play. He hasn't totally like really taken over the ball, but he definitely has taken over the tone. Like, he's involved in everything. Like, he's taken advantage of the fact that the captain is allowed to talk to the referee, and he's talking to the referee as much as possible, and so and he's yelling at guys, and he's, bitching at Capetti when Capetti's flopping around and whining and, man, you sub me, but all that. I hated that so much. And then, and just he has seized the control of this team by the scruff of the neck. And that's when you have someone like Westwood providing the veteran leadership. Then you can just slot in a veteran, Justin Meram, who can come in and seamlessly integrate in the attack, because you've got the lock. I just have to imagine the locker room is so much better play. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth a little bit later on about the 1 year since MAR firing and Laddie taking over and whatnot. You got to imagine the locker room is just such a much better place to be today than it was 1 year ago today, for sure.
And we'll give Christian Latanzio credit, because he is somebody that preached patience, waiting for this experience to get injected into the lineup. And that patience has paid off, and supporters are getting rewarded. This team is getting rewarded. And Grant points out that we are a totally different team without Westwood and Meram. And he is absolutely correct. So I think one of the toughest jobs for any manager is when the team's on a good run of form and you've got guys, more than 10 outfield players who have earned a spot. It's Christian Latanzio's job to make sure the sub pattern and the team is gelling, and this club has an opportunity to win, and everybody remains satisfied. We Danny Brams, we had a question earlier in the chat, if I can pull it up, by a tremendous friend of the show, one of our Tifos, Bridget McCall, co-host of the Queen's Pitch podcast.
DC Bridget, she was with us in DC, had a great ass time.
And I just wanted to call it out and basically, answer this question. What's our best backline tomorrow? And use this as a jumping off point, because I think the final player that I want to talk about is Adilson Malanda.
Can I segue off of Bridget's question into Bridget's question based off what you said right before?
Show everybody how much of a professional you are, Danny.
You brought up You said it's Latanzio's job to get this offense clicking and to get the veterans all on the same page, right?
Yes.
As part of his job, he also gives press conferences, and had a huge quote in the press conference today that speaks to what you're driving us towards. He says, the success of our season is going to be linked to the way we defend for the rest of the way. The way we defend from now until the end of the season will determine how far we can go. And so it comes to, who is the back line? Where is Malanda the guy? How do you incorporate Carujo? Brandon Davis is asking about Carujo as well in that same vein. Should Guzman start? Where does Tuiloma go? So it's all about the back line. How, the attack is actually pretty nice. We could definitely score more goals. We should have scored a lot more against LA, but I think we're kind of unlucky. Cambridge hit the post against Birmingham. Carroll had a really good chance that didn't score. We're getting chances. So you have to assume we might get a little positive regression in that vein. So I'm liking our chance to keep scoring goals. It's really going to be about limiting goals that determines if we're a playoff squad and a contender.
I asked you earlier today, does Guzman Carujo get the start on Wednesday against Philadelphia? He's not listed in the injury report, which means he's available for selection. He played 60 minutes for Crown Legacy. He looked good. Do you think Carujo could be injected into this back line on Wednesday against Philly?
Man, I'd be surprised if it's tomorrow. But I would be surprised if he's not starting against Columbus on Saturday. I think tomorrow he comes in as a late sub cameo, regardless of game state. He's just sort of your the last 10-minute sub guy that gets in for some fresh legs. He played 60 for the Crown Legacy the other night. That was on grass, right, at the Sportsplex. I'm drawing a blank. I admit I don't know if Subaru Park and Columbus, whatever Save the Crew Stadium is called. I forget if they're turf or grass. Someone can enlighten me there if you know. But I think that Guzman is super sub tomorrow, starter on Saturday. And shout out to Andres Echeverria, who came. Andres brought one of his buddies to EPR the other night. He's a regular at the EPR parties, and we call him Coach because he coaches 4 youth teams all concurrently and simultaneously. Makes the drive all the way over from Belmont near Gastonia to come over to EPR to hang with us on game matches. So thank you, Andres. And your quote is a good
tremendous tifos, tifos, one of the best.
And this is a very prescient point about how our defense can lead into attack for sure. What's the personnel for that? What do you think?
Well, let's start with Carujo. If he starts or not, we'll figure that out. But either way, when Carujo is 100% healthy and he's ready to play, he plays, right? So that's why Malanda for me is the next point of conversation here. It's I tweeted from the show account during the match that Malanda was showing out. That and by the way, Subaru Park is grass. I'm pretty sure the Crew is grass as well. I'm
most real stadiums are. Yeah,
I'm 98% sure on that. So when I'm thinking about Malanda, I'm watching the match and I'm saying Malanda is showing out. He's playing well. And just a few minutes after I made that observation, he, screws up a back pass and Galaxy have a look on goal, and people are saying, "What's going on with Malanda this season? He's making a lot of mistakes." And I think that Malanda kind of falls, and this is why I wanted to talk about both Malanda and Vargas on tonight's podcast, is because I think both of these guys fall into the same category. And it's not just because they're both 21. And I think because both players have been relied on so heavily, people forget how young they actually are. Mm-hmm. So when you have a center back like Malanda, who is a French player coming into MLS, he's a young guy who's made tremendous strides, who, by the way, played right back for this squad and did really well at the right back position. He's somebody that can play
until the
both positions. Well, got cooked by a scissor move and got 2 yellows. And as Karol Swiderski astutely pointed out to the referee, that was only a second foul. It was only a second foul of the night, and he's got 2 yellows.
Yeah, it was really.
But anyway,
the first yellow was really soft. The second, I disputed, although most people said it was fair. So.
Yeah, it was. It was. But either way, you've got a guy in Malanda who, if you pair him with Carujo on that back line, Danny, I think it just makes him better immediately because all of a sudden he's got cover. Right, Bill Tuiloma hasn't been at his best this season. Derek Jones is somebody that has been injected into that center back position as well. And for me, I just again want to underscore the age here. This guy is a future stalwart of Charlotte FC, just like Kerwin Vargas is. Ben Bender is extremely popular, right? He's somebody that everybody loves, that people, see Ben Bender and they think of, oh, Ben Bender is the young American kid who plays for Charlotte FC. He's older than both of these guys.
Right. Exactly. Good point. Very good point. Yeah.
That to me was the theme of tonight's show. And the reason why I'm happy as a supporter right now is not just because of the run of form, Danny, is because this run of form is happening with young players on the pitch. And
great point.
I am massively excited about that because not only does it bode well for the future of this campaign, but it bodes well for the next 3 years for Charlotte FC and Christian Lattanzio.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I want to dig a little more into that whole shift that's happened around Malanda, right? Because Tuiloma is not the guy. He's just not. Sobocinski is good. I think Sobocinski ends up the third choice behind Carujo and Malanda, and that Bill sort of becomes the coverage who can play, maybe a right back at times or even a defensive mid when Jones needs break. I could actually see that happening. That just popped in my head is eventually we're going to have to rest Jones and Bronico, and Tuiloma could actually fill in that role if needed for sure, if he's not a starting center back. But with Malanda, the shift that I reference is when he came in here last year, it was instant. Everyone was in love. It was Malanda. Oh, this kid's our best player. There were people saying that Adilson Malanda is our best player. People were this kid is our best overall player that last year. A lot of people were saying that. And now it's kind of the regression. It's I don't know. I haven't seen really much of a difference. To me, he's still doing pretty much the same things. He's made a couple more high profile mistakes, but the take of what happened to Malanda this season, I just don't get it. I mean, if someone wants to come at me with some numbers or stats or something that can back that up, I guess I'd listen to it. But eye test wise, I think if you really eye test wise think that Malanda's worse this year than last year, I think you're just looking for a reason to nitpick or maybe being a hater. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I love Malanda. I just don't see it. Why? I just think it's trendy. I think it's people looking for a hot take to say that he's not doing good this year. That's all.
Yeah, I don't want to insult anybody who has been critical of Adilson Malanda, because we certainly have been critical of many players on this show, and a lot of times,
and we'll continue to be, and we'll continue to be 100%, no doubt.
And a lot of times, these guys turn around and perform at a high level and find a good run of form and make us, look bad, and our criticism look unwarranted. And I think the criticism of Adilson Malanda is just one word. It's easy, right? Because when you're playing in a center back position and you make an error, it's just like, you can't miss it. Right. But when you're playing center defensive midfield and you make a mistake, well, you got people, covering your ass back there. Mm-hmm. And when a young player makes a mistake on the back line, it's just so easy to look at that and say, what happened to this guy? He continues to make these mistakes. And you have to imagine as a young center back that these things will get shored up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Bridget says Malanda over Bill all day, every day. Justin K says Malanda hasn't settled in position. Tactical tweaks, injuries, no stability. Totally agree, Justin. I think that's a very fair point. Grant Boylan says Malanda is the only definitive surrounded by shifting lineups. It's tough. I totally agree. Everyone sees it. And it's going to be tough. He's going to have an adjustment period with Carujo. He gelled instantly with Anton Walks, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And he's going to have to do the same thing with Carujo. Because I think our final form is easily Carujo, Malanda back center back pairing. And I don't see any way. Brandon Davis sums it up perfectly. Malanda is the man. There's no other reason. Hub Likes, another good point. Love Hub Likes. He's a really cool tweeter about a lot of good. He always has good thoughts. Not even a full MLS season yet. We're in very good hands with Malanda or the Dilson. I agree. I don't know that he's our best player, because I think that would be Carroll, but I think he's a top 3, top 5.
Okay, before we get to the Philly match and kind of break this down just a little bit more and talk about the first year of Christian Latanzio's tenure for Charlotte FC, any final quick thoughts about Saturday night's match? I have one player that I want to call out specifically. His name we haven't mentioned yet.
Should have been easier. Glad to get 3 points. Love the form we're on. A little bit skeptical that it is 100% earned, because the performances have not matched the results. But you know what? We've had good performances that had bad results. So I'm not gonna apologize for that. I'm just gonna be thankful, and hopefully we can get the form up a little bit to keep these good results coming.
Shout out to our player coach, Harrison Affle. His team of the match week performance. He's on the bench with Justin Meram, and at the end of the match, Harrison Affle could barely walk. I mean, this guy, this veteran, this player gave everything he had
he really
on
did.
Saturday night against LA Galaxy. And I think, as a supporter of a club, teammates, coaching staff, ownership, Zoran Cronetta, the scouting group, everybody looks at that performance by Harrison Affle, and that is what I would call setting the standard for Charlotte FC, the ability to go the full 90. Brant Bronico, he does it all the time, right?
Sure.
We know Bronny's going to go the full 90.
We're surprised when he doesn't, yeah.
But you need other players. You need veteran players to step up and show that, yes, I'm going to do that as well. And Harrison Affle doing that on Saturday against LA Galaxy. Oh man, it was really special to see. I think we talked about Ashley Westwood's swan song at the end of his career. And I think there's a lot more gas in the tank there with Ashley Westwood. Harrison Affle, this probably feels like his final season in MLS as a player. And to see him be able to put together that performance, King Harrison, round of applause. That was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have him on the squad just from a leadership standpoint. He hasn't always been, the guy necessarily, but he's definitely never doubted his effort and whatnot. And he's captained the side a few times.
Listen, I'm not sitting here talking about his technical ability. I'm not sitting here talking about how great of a player he is, right? I've been on the show saying, "Hey, I'm out on Burn." And
that's true.
And
you did.
I'm good. I'm good with that. But if you show me that kind of effort,
right,
I'm good with that.
I like it. You're very good with that, no doubt, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So
hopefully he's not hurt too bad. And hopefully, like, I don't think he's going to be like the most important player for us down the stretch, but he's going to have his role to play in what we're hoping is a playoff campaign here. So Harrison Affle has not finished making an impact on this season and this team at all.
Charlotte Soccer Show. I'm John Hayes. He's Danny Brams. You can follow us on Twitter at For the Crown Baby. You can follow us on Instagram at Charlotte Soccer Show. I'm going to be at Subaru Park on Wednesday evening running the Instagram account. I'll give you some behind the scenes in stadium looks at the match tomorrow night. So make sure you follow us there. For that, you can follow me on Twitter at John Hayes on Air. You can follow Danny Brams at Danny Brams as well. So I wanted to, take this time, Danny, to first and foremost, fully transition into this Philly match. Let people know Kamil Jóźwiak unavailable.
Yep. Enzo Copetti unavailable.
Enzo Copetti unavailable. George Marks, I believe, was listed as unavailable. Was he under the questionable?
I'll double check that while you keep going.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. But there's Ben Bender is somebody that is
close.
Questionable. Sorry. George Marks is questionable. I apologize for that. Mackenzie Gaines is questionable and Ben Bender is questionable. It's Hamady Diop with the abdomen injury. It's Kamil Jóźwiak with a thigh injury and Enzo Copetti with a hamstring injury. Definitely out for tomorrow night. So I just wanted to get that out there and have people expect this team to be without its striker. And I wanted to ask you how concerned you are with Karol Swiderski. Now he plays the full 90, basically the full 90, almost the full 90. I believe what did Ajamang?
Karol got like a little bit of a curtain call sub right at the end of the match. Yeah,
Ajamang, I believe, came in for Karol late in that match. Once again, that's two appearances in a row for Ajamang.
Love the kid.
And you really do love to see that. What do you do?
It's not for
in
tonight.
The box here?
It's not for tonight. It's a future episode, but the Ajamang passing Vinny Melo on the depth chart is definitely a discussion we need to have someday. But what was your question?
What do you do up top? Do you run it back? Do you have Karol Swiderski as the striker, or do you potentially give Ajamang a start and play Karol Swiderski sitting behind him in the 10 role? If you want to get crazy, is that something that you thought about?
It's not too crazy. It's just so crazy. It just might work, my friend. I think, Philadelphia Freedom, who knows if that's the one. We might have to take it all the way to Columbus for that to happen. But I think in one of the next two games, I think that will happen. I don't know if it's tomorrow or the weekend, but I think Patrick Ajamang starts one of the next two games with Karol even dip behind him. Even potentially Karol starting one of the next two from the bench. I wouldn't do it, but it could happen. I could see it happening because the fixtures have just piled up so heavy. We have Saturday, Wednesday, then another Saturday, and then it's finally like a 2-week break. So we just need to get through these next 3 games. We should have had 4 games. We should be playing an Open Cup quarterfinal next midweek, unfortunately. But yeah, I love Ajamang. Maybe it is for tonight. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, as with Vinny Melo having kind of fallen out of favor and sort of having to work his way back into good favor via the Crown legacy, I'm just loving like the imposing presence of Ajamang. Ajamang's a year and a half older, I think, than Melo, so he's just a little bit more mature, but he's still super young at 22. So it's just like, man, Jorge Torres comments Ajamang such a tank of a person, just a large man. I mean, he's bigger than Derek Jones. Like if that tells you anything, like when you see them standing next to each other. So I don't know. Maybe it's not the time to have the discussion, but you brought it up, so I do think he will start one of the next 2 games. Call me crazy.
You know who he reminds me of, Ajamang? Is Haji Wright, the United States men's national team striker who scored the goal against Netherlands in the knockout rounds.
Let's go.
And I think that Haji. He can kind of be that kind of big body in the box, kind of somebody that can go up and get after a corner or go and get on the end of a long ball into the box or a Westwood whip and curl or to the back post. So I think like if Christian Lattanzio wants to get creative here, if he wants to go into his chemistry lab and start mixing up some potions and coming up with the tinker, some potential options to throw Jim Curtin off on Wednesday night, maybe it's something that he could do, because I think this is really going to be a tough match. And I think if Charlotte FC wants to be creative and go for it, they potentially could do that.
I think Carroll needs a rest, and maybe Kopetti's back by Saturday. I don't know. So maybe my whole Ajimong plan doesn't come to fruition because Kopetti's back. But seems like Kopetti's hurt worse than has been let on. That's the vibe I get. Like, I watched him grab his hammy, and I know that a hammy takes some time. So
and that's the point here, right? One of the worst injuries that you could see for a soccer player is hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talked about saving something for another episode, and I promise we will save this for another episode. But there's nobody who has, been, I guess, more of a proponent of Enzo Copetti than me. True. Just kind of understanding what he's done for this squad and what his in the box poaching ability adds and his physicality adds to the team. But if Charlotte FC continues to play well without him, we're going to have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Good point. Really good point. If it's to steal from Bill Simmons, it could be a Ewing theory situation where somehow the guy that everyone thought was irreplaceable turned out to be the one guy you needed to get out of the lineup. So that can happen at times. I still think Copetti has a big role to play in this campaign.
Me too.
As well.
Me
but
too.
It's unfortunate we can't. The Chivas Guadalajara season just ended. It's unfortunate we can't just borrow Danny Rios back for a game just to scare Philadelphia, make them, quake in their boots that he's going to put up 4 more goals on them. But we need some type of solution because as much like Jorge Torres points out, and I knew this, but I didn't say it, but I probably should have, is that when we don't go on our break, Carroll's flying to Poland to play international matches. So he's got to have a break in one of these next 3. I don't think he can start all 3 of the next matches. I just don't. I would love him to, and he's our best and most important player. So I think you could almost expect him to, but just knowing the way soccer works and knowing how ragged these guys are, you've commented Jones is tired as hell. Carroll's got to be tired as hell.
Derek Jones at the end of the last 2 matches he hasn't literally been able to run. He can barely get his feet off the ground. I mean, he like Harrison Awful is just leaving everything out there, and all the work that these guys are putting in the gym, in the training sessions, getting the body right is allowing them to do this. But my goodness, is it a difficult job? And it's why
these minutes have got to be taking a toll on Miram. These minutes have got to be taking a toll on Brawny and Westwood. It's just it's like even Brawny probably not. Brawny's grind set. Brawny could probably play 180 minutes and go out and play 180 minutes the next day because that's just Brawny. But Malanda even probably a little bit tired. So I don't know. I think we got to start flexing the depth a little bit more. And Matthew Christensen in the comments agrees with us. Getting Ajimong PT is needed because Carroll's getting called out to Poland. Exactly. Like if Kopetti's not back by the time, Carroll's not going to miss Carroll's only going to miss 1 game in that international duty, which is we're thankful for that. He'll miss the 21st against the Red Bulls. But just at some point we got to get these, keep the kids going. The kids are winning games for us. You said it. It's not our signing. It's not our huge DP second most expensive signing ever that's winning games for us. It's the kids.
Prediction for Wednesday night? Do you have an official call to make?
2-1 loss. Would love a draw. You brought it up earlier. I would love a draw. I would be over the moon for a draw tomorrow, and I expect us to probably lose, unfortunately.
Yeah, something about my gut tells me that it's going to be a really difficult game, but with Christian Colina in net, maybe he could make some game saving saves, and this team could walk out of there with a point. I'm going to call it a 1-1 draw.
We need the guys to go in there to Subaru Park and play with a little bit of that Philadelphia Freedom. I love you. Yeah. Love Elton John. I love old school Elton John more than his later work. But yeah, great song. I love that you put that in the title, man. You're a genius.
So hey, we've got one more topic to discuss tonight. It is the 1-year mark of Christian Lattanzio being the head man of this squad, and I just wanted to. I thought it was a great observation on your part, and I think it's a great talking point. We used to make fun of Christian Lattanzio and call out his interim tag and kind of flash that
manager Christian Lattanzio.
And
we did a murder mystery episode where we blamed him for killing the season. I mean, or at least I did. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, he still might have killed that season, but he's
no doubt. He had an accomplice, but yeah, he did.
But he's having a really nice month right now. May has been unbelievably busy. and Christian Lattanzio looks really good. And I'll give him credit. The way that he handled the fan next to the tunnel, draping the T-shirt that said Lattanzio out.
Enough is
the
enough.
way the way that he handled that, I think even he deserves more credit for that. He deserves more accolades for that. And so ultimately,
he's a very self-aware guy. In the presser today, someone said, "Hey, what do you think about Miram and the leadership he's providing?" He's like, probably the same time that 3 people asked me this in the last 4 press conferences. I feel about the same. Every press conference is about the Justin Miram show. It's like, and he was good natured about it, but it's just like, I like that ability to push back at the reporters in kind of a fun way a little bit when they're questioning him. He's like, guys, you're asking me the same questions over and over again, but I don't know. It's, he's grown into the job. And I still think we take a lot of issues with his substitutions. I think his in-game still has vast improvement that needs to happen, but his management of the team in the days between games has been really getting better and better as time goes on. And he's got the players all on the same page. There was a minute probably, I think even maybe 6 weeks ago, we were talking about, losing the locker room and stuff like that. And now all of a sudden it seems like he's really got the locker room well, all singing from the same hymnal, as they say. So I'm proud of him for becoming a better coach in the last 365 days. He's a much, much better coach, as anyone should be, hopefully, after doing the job for a year, than he was on the day he was named. And, I'm thinking about the MAR firing. It was an early bid on the show, I think, to just be, gung-ho for MAR and be a little upset and nostalgic when he left. I think we've kind of faded that's faded away. I don't really miss MAR. I doubt you do. And I do think it's worth thinking about, though, what it was like that day. It was a Tuesday. It was the day after Memorial Day. It was going into an international break. It was 2 days after we had lost a halftime lead at Seattle and gotten blitzed in the second half. And all this stuff had happened. I was talking to Willie P about this earlier tonight before we started streaming. He was like, yeah, man, that was a crazy day. I was on vacation, and it's like, you think you can take a vacation during the international break when the team's not playing, and then they go fire the coach and you got to scramble all the jets and everything. So it was a wild time. You and I remember that day we were trading fast and furious messages back and forth, and all this stuff happened. We wanted to know why, because if you remember, there was no real reason given. Like if you Google Christian MAR fired, almost all the leads there's words like inexplicably and, no reason given and stuff like that from the coverage that day that I was looking back. And we found out that basically the reason was he was an asshole. He was fired for being an asshole, essentially. And, not the first, not the last in this world, and certainly not in that business. So I don't know. I think overall, we're still on a roller coaster. Things have not stabilized in the Lattanzio's year here necessarily, but it's been a fun ride. I'm enjoying the roller coaster.
It's been really fun to kind of just reminisce and think about, the MAR situation and how I think maybe the reason why I really enjoyed it is because I'm a sucker for drama. And MAR was just amazing at creating drama, and not only creating it, but then taking it and giving it to the supporters and lighting it on fire. And I was sad to see MAR go, because I thought he was unbelievably passionate, and I thought that his connection with the fans was something that I wanted this club to build around. And I was initially critical of Christian Lattanzio because it didn't seem like he had the ability to make that connection with the fans. But it's ultimately turned into, 3 weeks ago, Christian Lattanzio is doing press conferences, Danny, and he's feeling himself.
Sometimes he feels like we are Real Madrid. He made me laugh. The shirt, enough is enough. It's like it's like this club has won 3 MLS Cup and 3 CONCACAF Champions League. So now enough is enough. We are building the club, and I think the boys are doing as good as they can. And we had some tough time in different ways. I receive from people that I see that might be in the street or a lot of good support. And I think that there is a silent majority that I think they are behind the club. But they don't have to be behind me. Obviously, every coach has got I've got supporters that like him and the other ones that don't. Everybody has an opinion on football.
Silent majority.
Yeah, he won me over on that, Danny. Just like the way he handled that situation, and it just makes me happy to see him smile.
Sometimes he feels like we are Real Madrid. I mean, he made me laugh. The shirt. Enough is enough. It's like it's like.
he's laughing at it. Like, I mean,
Right.
It wins me over. And it also, I wanted to go back as well. I mean, he gets the job, and you don't expect him to get the job. You're trying to figure out who could potentially take over. He doesn't have any managerial experience at the highest level, not being the interim. David Tepper, somebody with deep pockets, and instead you go back to November, and David Tepper said this.
How important was keeping Christian on board for a continuity standpoint?
Listen, Christian did a great job coming in. I mean, obviously you saw the end of the season, and when, we had a little bit different. And, listen, we had to go through a process and look for other coaches. It's just, what we have to do. But it was clear that Christian did a great job and was the best man for the job.
Can you comment on the
in retrospect, when you look at that, here's a guy in Christian Lattanzio that it was a great ending to the season. It was a draw that felt like a win against Columbus at the Keep. And you go into that offseason, you're feeling good, and David Tepper and his staff interview a bunch of coaching candidates, and it's the internal candidate who's been doing the job who gets the job because he's the right man for the job. So even though this season got off to an absolutely shit start, that is way in the past, and things feel better at the moment, Danny.
Totally agree. Totally agree. But let me just play this again real quick.
How important was keeping Christian on board for a continuity standpoint?
Damn, I wish I was rich enough to just wear my hat off center and not care like that. Tap, bro.
How important was keeping Christian on board for continuity?
You're wearing that hat just like, it's not like try 90s, like, oh yeah, like trying to be hip hop. It's like you just forgot to put it on straight. You don't care. You're just rich enough. You don't care about whether your hat's on straight or not. I'm trying to get there, man.
He's starting to show Christian Lattanzio that is some more personality, and I think that's a massive asset. Hub Likes chimes in. He says he's growing on me, but he says a lot of iffy things. There's been a lot of excuse making. There certainly has, and I haven't liked that either. But I'm attracted to confidence, right? I don't want excuse making. I want confidence.
He's not great in a post-game loss press conference. Right after a game, he's usually pretty hot, and you can usually tell who he's mad at for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's a great way to end the show. And despite whatever happens on Wednesday night, we're not going to overreact. I think this was a great opportunity for us to kind of hit the reset button and say Christian Lattanzio is the right man for the job right now, that David Tepper made the right decision, and that the experienced players that Christian Lattanzio has brought into this squad and has given playing time, they're making an impact like he said they would. And to me, that makes him a man of his word.
Well said. Couldn't put it any better.
Lenny C, thank you for being here. So thank you for thanking us on tonight's show. And I'm in the city of brotherly love, and I've got nothing but brotherly love for my friend Danny Brams here.
Yeah, brother.
On the show. I'll be in the stadium tomorrow night. I was bummed not to be at EPR. Shout out to you for holding it down, and shout out to EPR for being open late and taking care of the Tifos on Saturday night.
Yes, sir. It's what we do, and we are not doing a watch party for tomorrow. I think it's a little bit too much of a scramble for everybody midweek. Not going to try to put that pressure on the Tifos. The Tifos deliver so much that I would never want to ask them more than I feel that they should be expected to deliver. So I'm not asking the Tifos for anything tomorrow on a midweek road match, but Saturday night it's going to be just all right. I hope everybody shows up. Saturday night's all right for fighting, and we're going to be fighting Columbus. Hopefully coming off of a 6 wins out of 7 after we show Philadelphia what for. But again, I did go ahead and predict the loss. So because really I just want everyone to troll me when I turn out to be wrong.
I'm not going to promise the Tifos anything, but I'm getting in my car first thing Thursday morning, driving back to the Queen City. And I'd love to do an episode on Thursday or Friday morning. If we can make it work, I'd love to get it done and be there for the Tifos. If not, we'll be back after Saturday's match. So stay tuned. We'll let you know what our plan is for that. And hey, I'm taking my parents to the game tomorrow night. This is the first time my parents are going to be seeing Charlotte FC. But I'm going to ask them. Maybe I'll ask them tomorrow morning who they're going to be rooting for.
Just tell them one thing, Johnny. It's for the crown, baby.